Hello, 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 everyone. Y'all, I had to let me get comfortable on this couch. We're gonna have to get comfortable today. Y'all might have to talk to me today. I don't know. I know it is later than my expectation. Um, I was going through something. Yeah, I'm a mom. I'm a single mom, y'all, with of three, two adults in my life and one young pending adult. He's in his teenage. He's 17, and he thinks he is already an adult. Um, and today, I think I'm not going to say our personalities clash, but there was some clashing that definitely happened today. And so it took me a minute. I had to get myself in that space to really be ready. And I was thinking, I'm like, what am I going to talk to them about today, Jesus? What? Because I've been on a move today, and then I got a chance to go to the doctor with my daughter this morning. We got our first ultrasound, so I got a chance to really see the widow baby that's in my daughter's belly that will be here in February. That will be our Valentine's Day gift. Um, so the doctor's appointments, and I came home. I took a nap. Y'all, my body was tired. I already talked to y'all about why. So it took a nap. I didn't fight it, but Holy Spirit woke me up, and I started to do some things, and I went in my phone, and stuff began from there. Um, the devil just tried to have his way a little bit, and we're going to talk about it, right? But let me get everybody comfortable in here because I just started venting already. So let me just say hello, hello, hello to everyone. Welcome to More Life to Live. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, my name is Louisa Bush, and my heart behind this community is to encourage women who are navigating life's challenges to pause, find hope, and discover that no matter what season they're in, there's still more life to live. Now, every conversation isn't about having all the answers. You'll find that out tonight. Sometimes it's about allowing God to meet us right in the middle of what we're walking through. So, for the first time tonight, nope, the second time, because I think yesterday we just kind of flowed with it, right? Tonight, this is one of those conversations, right? But we do three things here in this community. We pause and take a look at our current situations and where we are. The second step is we hope, meaning we partner with God. Okay. And then the third step is we live. We take a step of obedience to moving in the right direction to where we need to be. So without further ado, y'all, I'm gonna try to keep with the flow tonight. I'm gonna try my best to keep with the flow, but y'all be prepared. I'm not gonna say this is gonna be a long one, but I can't say it's gonna be a short one either, because y'all, I'm in the midst of it right now. This is fresh. This doesn't have an ending to it yet, but in the midst of what I'm going through right now, there was a lesson, that I grabbed out of it. Sometimes there's lessons that now, is this the only lesson that's gonna come out of it? I don't know, because like I said, I'm still in the middle of this. So let me let y'all know a little bit about what's going on. But before I share my story, y'all know I'm gonna ask you a question, right? Because it's still got to be a learning thing. I don't want to just encourage you, but I gotta ask some questions because that's what we do here. Because you might see yourself in my story, and I want you to reflect on it. I want us to change some things about the way we move, because everything that I'm going through, it's a process, and some things I recognize that I don't do things the way I used to, which is such a blessing. right? Just to be able to see that growth and to feel it. So I gotta ask you some questions. I have something I want you to think about, and that way to kind of put you on the mindset that where I am. Alrighty. So my first question is: have you ever been so upset to, that your emotions wanted to make the decision for you? I gotta ask you that question because that's kind of where I was. Get just so angry, and the word I think I used earlier today was I was pissed off. Right? You've never been so pissed off that your emotions wanted to make the decision for you. Have you ever found yourself wanting to respond immediately, only to realize later that you may have needed more time to pray and think? And have you ever had to ask yourself, am I responding with wisdom or am I simply reacting to how I feel? Now, I'm going to let you all know these questions definitely didn't arise. I didn't arrive at these questions immediately when I was going through it. I tell you all that you all need to get in a connect group, connect with you some kingdom people. Well, my kingdom person in situations like this, when it comes to me wanting to make a decision, I'm not going to even say wanting to make a decision. When I get upset, um, I vent to my daughter. That's because I keep it in my family. So when it has something to do with one of my children, especially if it has something to do with my youngest, then I normally will talk to one of my older children, whoever is available. My daughter is right next door to me. She's closest to me. So I normally will share with her immediately what I'm processing or what just happened, right? That's my person that I'm going to talk to. And then sometimes I'll text my oldest son. I didn't do that in this instance. I immediately, when I shared what was happening with my daughter, because this wasn't the first occurrence type of thing, I was thinking my immediate response was to go into what my previous conversation was with my youngest son. And we'll get to that. But I didn't want to have this conversation with my son yet because I was still, y'all, I was frustrated. I wasn't, I wasn't. Now this is how I know things have God has been doing some things, some shifting some things. Yeah, I wasn't yelling. So that is a plus, right? I wasn't yelling. I was upset. I was frustrated. And the more I talked about it, I would, I would get. Now I would feel myself getting a little bit elevated, but I wasn't yelling, so that's a good thing. Um, and because the decision that I was ready to make, to me, I still felt it was, it was a rough one. My next go-to person, my voice of reason, the voice that I know the spirit is going to be working through her, and she's not going to tell me stuff out of emotion, is my mother. So I will say, if you don't have kingdom people, because if we're trying to change, so when you're trying to change, you can't go to those old people all the time because they still think like your old way of thinking, and they're going to give you an answer that's probably in agreement with your impulsive response, your emotional response. That's where our right. So we need a kingdom person. We need those that are kind of plugged in, and that's what I did. I spoke with my daughter because she's familiar, she's family, she's in the dynamic of what's happening. But my logic, my spiritual reason person that I go to is my mom, right? And so I'll share with you the conversation. We'll get to the mom part of the story. But let me just tell you What am I talking about and what had me so upset? So, you all, I've already shared with you all that I have three children. I have a 31-year-old, I have a 23-year-old, and my youngest is 17, right? And they are definitely my heartbeats. They are my blessings. Um, but just like any other mom, we have our trying times. And today, my youngest son definitely put me in one of those trying times. My son went and got a tattoo today. And it didn't sit well with me at all. It didn't sit well with me at all, and I'll tell you why. I ended up, now I told you I was napping, right? I was napping, I was sleeping good, and then I got up. I don't even remember what caused me to get up, but I was looking at an email that I had received, and before I made it to the email that I was going in, opening up my email to look at, I saw that there was a Venmo notification telling me that my son had received a payment. And so I'm like, well, he can receive payments for a number of things because I know he does side jobs. He does, so I'm like, what is the payment for? And when I opened it and saw that, it was a friend of his sending him money for a tat, I'm like, wait, what? So I did the mom thing. I went and looked at the location. I'm like, where is he at? And the location wasn't where I thought he was going to be. It was, so now I'm calling, I'm FaceTiming because in my mind, I'm like, I want to ask you why is somebody sending you money for a tat, but something in me was like, is he getting a tattoo? You know, that's what instantly went into my spirit. So I'm calling. He rejects the call, y'all. And you know me, I'm like, oh, I immediately pressed the FaceTime video call again. He rejected it even quicker than what he did the first time. So now I'm like, hold on. I'm texting. Why are you not answering? What you doing? WYD. Now this is one thing that I will say I love about my son, and I hope it never changes, is that brother's gonna be honest to a certain extent. And the only reason I say to a certain extent is because, well, I'm just gonna continue to tell the story. But what I appreciate, he didn't take me through around the bridge and under. He told me the truth. I didn't like it, but he said, I'm getting the shark tattoo right now. My response was, answer now. I wanted him to answer the phone because I needed to see his face. I needed to have a conversation. And my next one was, I didn't tell you to get him. You can get a tattoo. You know what my son told me? He said, yes, you did. Nisha was there. So now he's telling me that I told him he could get one, and my daughter was there. And you know me, what's my response going to be? No, I didn't. And he responded back, I promise you did. I wouldn't have done it if you didn't say I could. Now, remember I told you my son is 17. Okay? And now I'm hoping is going to shine some light for those of you that are watching that also have teenagers, right? Because we think, and my mom had to point this out, even though I already had thought about it like this, but her saying it and my daughter also saying it, it's like 1, 2, 3, name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? Clarity, confirmation. I didn't like the confirmation, but reality is reality. My 50-year-old brain remembers this conversation, and he's telling the truth about. We did have a conversation recently about a tattoo. It wasn't me saying he could get one, but let me all tell you how this conversation went, so you can understand his perspective, and you can also understand mine. I don't remember the entire conversation on how we got started with talking about the tattoo. I don't remember. I really don't. I do remember once upon a time, me and my son were talking about getting matching tattoos. Um, and that may have been how the conversation started. I don't know. But he ended up coming into the kitchen and he told his sister that he was going to get a shark tattoo when he's 18. You know, because she was talking about how she was going to get one back, she thought she was going to get one and she wanted to do it when she was 16, but she couldn't. And she said as soon as she turned 19, she went and got one because when you go to a tattoo shop when you're 19, they will allow you to do it. And she was remembering that when she went to go get hers, she said she was upset because they didn't ask her for an ID. And she was thinking, I could have got it. If you weren't going to ask me for an ID, I could have got this back, a few years ago. She knew I would have been upset, but what she did do, that's my rule. You cannot get a tattoo as a minor, right? I just got to stand for something. And so he's like, yeah, he said, as soon as I turn 18, I'm getting my shark tattoo. Now, true enough, he still would be a minor at that age. But my son is going to be a senior. He'll be graduating this year. And I figured when he told me the type of tattoo, even though I don't like it, I was going to be a little flexible, right? And so I'm like, okay, at 18, yeah, but not now. You can't have one now. And I clearly said that. I said, you can't get one now. I had been saying he's been asking for a tattoo, I think, since he was about 15 or 16. And I'm like, no, no, no. And so he kept bringing it up. And this was the way he kind of eased it into the conversation. So his mind, my mom said I can get one. Notice 50-year-olds, my parents that are listening, you heard me say, agree to it when you're 18, right? My son's 17. His birthday is in October. This is July. 17-year-old brain is saying my birthday is in what, 3 months? August, September, October. Young teenage mind, what's the big deal? You said I can get it. Couple of months, no big deal. Me over here, I'm starting to fume on the inside because I feel blatantly disrespected. Right? So that was his conversation back and forth to me. Is I said I never agreed to right now. We talked about getting it when you were 18. His response, yeah, it's no different. Told you, 17-year-old brain. 50-year-old brain was like, it's a big difference. I told you no. 17, teenage brain, 3 months, no big deal. Right? And guess what else he hit me with, y'all? He hit me with I was trying to surprise you. Like it's a treat for me. But too late, I guess. I said, no, you weren't trying to surprise me. You just did what you wanted to do right now. And he's like, what? What's the difference of me doing it right now? I said, answer the phone. He said, I can't answer. And I don't want you yelling right now. So he's trying to save face. He knows for this type of thing, more than likely, and I can't say that he was wrong or right, because it probably would have turned into me yelling. Because he would have been giving me nonchalant responses and still going forward with the act when I clearly said not to. So, in a way, he was definitely right, and he was also wrong. He was wrong for the action of continuing with doing it. Right? And so, my next question, because my child is a minor, I wanted to know, where are you? Where are you getting a tattoo, and who signed off on it? Because now I'm wanting to know, did one of your friend's parents sign off for you? Who did you have? Did you have one of your friends who are of age sign off? Who gave this consent? Like, what tattoo artist at a business is doing this for you? And his response, he lets me know, he told me that the guy works for, or he works at a certain tattoo shop, and that he would be willing to show me some of his work. Like, I cared about that. But when I'm looking at the location, he's not at a business. That means you're at someone's house. That could be all sorts of other issues. But we're not going to go there, right? So I was fuming. Needless to say, I was fuming. I think the last text I may have sent my son was, I told him something like, yet again, you blatantly defied me and went forward with the decision because you wanted it now. I said, we've talked about these discussions in the past, just a couple of months ago, because we had. Um, and I've told you, if we cross this road again, there was a certain consequence that I was going to give my son. One that he wasn't going to like, and there was one I really didn't like it either. And so I left the message. I hope it was worth it. I told you what my course of action would be. And that was my last message, y'all, to my son. Okay. I didn't yell at him. I didn't when he called me afterwards, because he did. He said that he would call when he finished, but I wasn't. You're not answering the call right now. I'm not gonna. When you're ready, I'm not going to answer that call. But guess what? What I said when I left him with that, he came back with some more text, right? He said, "What's the course of action? How many times have we done things, and we could just think that we wonder, I knew I wasn't supposed to do that. I did it anyway. I wonder what the course of action is going to be." I know I've been like that. Even in my walk, like before I did the whole identity shift and transformation, I can remember there were times that I knew decisions I was making wasn't that God wanted for me. But I did it anyway, like a disobedient child, like my son just did, right? And it's just like, what's God gonna do? Is he gonna punish me? And I would have that little fear, in my, not little fear, but I would be worried, right? But I should have been thinking that beforehand. So now I understand what he's feeling. And then he studied trying to talk. I don't get why you're so mad. I'm 18 in a couple of months and I was going to get this anyway. I haven't been disrespectful lately or anything. He's pleading. We've done that. But I didn't respond because I was done with text messaging tag. And when he tried to FaceTime me, I didn't respond because I want to see you sitting in front of me. But the other reason I didn't respond is because I didn't want my emotions to take over and I say something out of my mouth that could cut the spirit of my son. Right? And so that's where the lesson is. Yes, I was upset. He knew how I would respond. He knew I would yell, so he didn't want to answer. And I'm okay with that. But I also don't want to have a conversation over the phone because I still might yell. And I was still at that, it's immediate, it's fresh. I'm still emotional type of thing. Even though I feel calm, I'm calm because I'm by myself. I'm calm because the offender isn't sitting in front of me that did the offense. Because when I was venting with my daughter and I was sharing with her my reasoning behind it, I had mixed emotions. I was angry with I was upset with what he did. But then I started thinking about the sacrifices and the different things. And I think about, the leniency that I have with him. And there's reasons for the leniency that I have. And there's sacrifices that have been made that I know his 17-year-old mind, even though he understands sacrifices that were made, he doesn't understand all the depth of it, right? And so I think it went from being upset to being angry to being feeling really disrespectful. So there were a lot of mixed emotions, and a lot of times as parents, we think of our 50-year-old mind, our 40-year-old mind, we're thinking of way more. We're thinking of the depth of everything. But our teenager, our children are thinking of the right thing in their moment. And when we take ourselves and we put ourselves on their level, it should help us balance out a little bit. Was he wrong? Yes, he was 100%. However, I need to respond with wisdom. I need to respond with a calm mind. And I need to make sure that when I respond, I'm responding with a consequence that is fair for that offense. And sometimes as parents, we need to learn how to, you don't have to respond immediately when the offense happens because you might be responding out of emotions, your offense that you took. And when we respond out of that, the enemy wins because you got to think about it, the enemy's sole job is to try to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants to separate the family. If your children have an anointing on their, a calling on their life, he wants to get in their minds. He wants to be able to break them from the inside. And a lot of times the children are so strong, it's not the outside that can get to them and break them down. It's you. It's the ones that are close to them, the ones that trust them, that create the most hurt. And it takes a lot of time to get over those types of hurt. My son is getting ready to be 18 soon. I don't want to be the dagger that starts to tear him down and offend him to the point where it takes him into his adult years before he gets over it, before he heals from it, right? And so something that I want you to ask yourself is, am I responding with wisdom or am I simply reacting to how I feel? And that's where I was. I had to, I have to talk with my daughter. I have to talk with my mom. Because my mom was like, talk to your daughter, talk to your oldest son. Now, let me tell you, my oldest son's reaction was similar to mine. And hearing, the crazy thing is, when my daughter told me what my oldest son said, it was like, no, it's like he's bad. Send him to military school, send him to Bridger, send him to, and I'm like, no, because he's not bad. I don't have any bad children. I'm grateful to say that. Do they make some decisions that I disagree with? Yes. But I definitely wouldn't give any of them the title of bad because none of them are bad, nor have they ever been. And that is such a blessing. Right? So I was upset. And then I remember I said I had a conversation with my mom. Um, Something that my mom said that made everything take a whole different perspective. And I'm hoping I'm sharing this with you so that when you get in situations like this, and I'm sure you have been, you won't handle them the way you used to. If you handle chores the way that I used to, with yelling, possibly cursing, maybe you grab up your kid, I don't know. But this is what my mom said to me. She said, I had a child out of wedlock. No, she says, sometimes our children are going to do things that go against what we say, or it goes against what we're trying to protect them from. And she said, take for instance, she says, I did this too. She said, I had a child out of wedlock. My mom wasn't happy about it when she found out. And she told me, she said, you did the same thing. You had a child out of wedlock. And she said, when you told me, you know, I wasn't happy about it. She said, we both did things that were outside of the will of God, of what He wanted for us. God didn't want, that goes against what He told us, right? She said, but did God punish us for having the children out of wedlock that went against His commandment, went against what He told us that He wanted, went against the expectation that He had for us? Or did He continue to love us, and was the consequence us having to learn how to navigate life and go through certain things because of the choice that we made? Now, because of the choice that we made, we did run into some challenges that probably could have been avoided had we not made that choice. But He didn't punish us because of the choice. And that right there, it 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 settled me. And then of course she told me exactly what I had already kind of said to myself about the choice that I was going to make, that I really did want to make, because when I think about the effect that it could have on him for the personality that my child is, it those things might not happen, but it's a stronger possibility that they could. And that's not what I want for my child, right? And so I I'm glad she said it the way she said it. Did she give me a resolution? No, she didn't. But did she give me some wisdom that helped me to look at it from a different perspective and to pause without making a decision right now that could ultimately change the trajectory of the direction that his life is already going, which would allow the enemy to win? That means I would end up being the vessel that the enemy used to do what he did. All because I'm reacting. I'm giving a consequence based off of my feelings. So I can say, when I think about, if I had to say, going from the pause, that was like my pause, right? Because we do things in three steps. So I just shared a long pause with you. This is me reflecting on where I am right now, the conversations that I had with my daughter. My oldest son is thinking like I am. I talk to my mom and she gives me, she brings me down. She speaks wisdom into me, right? So if we had to move to step two, hope, I would say one thing God's teaching me right now is there's a difference between having an emotional reaction and making a wise decision. I'm not pretending that my emotions aren't real, because they definitely are. I'm angry. I'm not going to say I am angry. I'm going to say I was angry. I was angry. I'm no longer angry. I was disappointed. But I've also realized that just because my emotions are loud, it doesn't mean they should have the microphone. Sometimes wisdom sounds quieter than our emotions. And my mom was that wisdom that I needed to hear. Sometimes wisdom says, don't make a permanent decision based on temporary emotions. And sometimes the most spiritual thing we can do is pause, pray, and seek God's direction before we respond. My mom's her perspective, it didn't remove my emotions. What it did was it helped me to slow down before making a decision. It helped me to slow down. And although my son feels like I'm ignoring his calls and his texts, the wisdom is telling me don't answer it right now. The enemy wants me to answer right now. But no, I'm pausing. I'm being still. Because what's going to happen is when my son comes home, we'll either have a conversation about it or we won't. It's all about whatever the Holy Spirit leads me to do. Because sometimes when we do stuff, God doesn't say anything right away. He's still watching. He's still being merciful. He's still giving his grace. He still keeps his hedge and arms of protection around us. He still continues to provide for us. Right? He allows life to take its course. And because of the free will that he's given us, we always come to a point where there's something that is a result of the choice that we made. So this story isn't over. Can I tell you what the ending is going to be? I cannot, because like I said, this is something that I'm in right now. But these are the lessons that have come up that I wanted to share with you. And I hope you were able to learn something from this situation. So I still don't exactly know what the consequence is going to be, but I do know this. I don't want my anger making decisions that my wisdom will later regret. That is my shift. That's my truth. That's where I am right now. The old me would have reacted and responded with those emotions. So tonight, as we're on the third step. I know I've kept you for like almost 40 something minutes, and I thank you for listening. I do want to leave you with one question. Okay. What situation in your life is tempting your emotions to grab the microphone? Maybe it's your child. Maybe it's your marriage. I don't know. Maybe it's someone at work. Maybe it's a friendship. Whatever it is, before you respond, pause, pray, and ask God for wisdom. Because sometimes our greatest act of strength isn't speaking, it's waiting until wisdom has something to say. Right? It's waiting until wisdom has something to say. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Um, let's do what we do best. We're not going to just wrap it up. We're definitely going to pray out. We're going to pray out in here. and then I'm gonna let you all go on with your Thursday. Alrighty, ready? Let's go ahead and pray. Mm. Father, thank you for caring about every part of our lives, even the moments that stir up strong emotions. Help us to recognize our feelings without allowing them to control our decisions. Give us wisdom, patience, and discernment so that our words and actions reflect your heart. Lord, teach us to pause before we respond. And Lord, teach us to trust you to guide us in every situation. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I know this episode was not like all of them because it's not something that I already walked through and overcame. It's something that I'm in the midst of going through, but there is still a lesson in it that I hope we all were able to learn from. So, if tonight's conversation encouraged you, I pray that you'll take a few moments to reflect on the questions we discussed, and of course, invite somebody else that you know may um, need this. Right? Remember, some of the greatest wisdom is found in the pause. Until next time, pause, hope, and live, because there's always more life to live. Be blessed. Enjoy your Thursday. Good night. It doesn't want to end, y'all. I'm trying to end it. It's not letting me leave. It wants me here with y'all. Let's try it again.